trick in making my love stick? What's the trick?
Hello, and welcome to the Film Critic of the Common Man podcast. While other film podcasts might be in the prisoner-taking business, we are in the Nazi-killing business, and cousin, business is a booming. Every episode, we discuss a film from the perspective of a film critic, the perspective of a common man. May not agree, but it certainly won't be boring. I'm your co-host, Ben Miller. I'm a film critic, and I write about films for my own site, Ice Cream for Freaks. I am joined by my brother and common man co-host, a man who probably doesn't want to know the Nazi's nickname for him, Jake Miller. How you doing, buddy?
Buongiorno.
I thought about it's like my common man co-host Gorlami, Jake Miller, like just it's my favorite.
I speak the most Italian.
it's like I don't speak the most third most Italian. It's like, yeah, but whatever. Like
like I said, third most.
This movie is great just because of all the a movie about World War II and Nazis and killing and a prominent character named the Jew Hunter should not be this much fun, but my God, is it a blast. Just, we'll get into a lot of the things about it. Today, we're talking about our first World War II movie we've ever gotten into and our first Tarantino movie. We're talking about Inglourious Basterds, directed by Quentin Tarantino, written by Quentin Tarantino, starring a massive cast, which I'm not scratching the surface of who I'm going to talk about on here. Brad Pitt, Melanie Laurent, Christoph Waltz, Michael Fassbender, Daniel Bruhl, and Diane Kruger, co-starring Eli Roth, Til Schweiger, BJ Novak, Jackie Edu, August Deal, Dennis Michaud, Martin Wuttke, Sylvester Groth, and Mike Myers for some reason, but whatever. Opening date on May 20th, 2009 at the Cannes International Film Festival. Went wide on August 21st, 2009 and made some bank. It is the most successful movie of Quentin Tarantino's career. 120.5 million US, 200.9 million international, 321.4 million on a $70 million budget. Did just fine for itself. Nominated for 8 Oscars: Best Picture, Best Director, Best Supporting Actor for Christoph Waltz, Best Original Screenplay, Best Cinematography, Best Film Editing, Best Sound Editing, and Best Sound Mixing. It only won the one to Best Supporting Actor for Christoph Waltz. It lost, of the other ones it lost 7 Oscars. It lost Best Cinematography to Avatar and lost the other 6 to The Hurt Locker. So Hurt Locker was very much, I mean, if you're going to lose something to a war, like worse things to lose to than to lose to The Hurt Locker.
Yeah, Hurt Locker's great.
Yeah,
I mean, we've already talked about that, but
yeah,
Avatar.
Mixed feelings on that one. Rotten Tomatoes, critics and audience has been lockstep. 89% critics, pretty much on the mostly positive, 88% for audience as well. In the top 150 of the IMDb all-time list, unsurprisingly. I will get to a quick plot summary of Inglourious Basterds. It's kind of a series of vignettes, 5 different vignettes, but regardless, all kind of coming together. This is initially set in 1941. SS Officer Hans Landa, also known as the Jew Hunter, played by Christoph Waltz, is searching a French farm for a group of hidden away Jews, and he finds them and kills all of them except one, Shoshana Dreyfus, who runs away and escapes to another part of France, apparently. 3 years later, the U.S. Army decides to create the Bastards, head by U.S. Army Lieutenant Aldo Raine, and they have nothing but Jewish American soldiers in order to hunt down and scalp Nazis, which always fun to have. Hitler is obviously very upset about this, but they are very successful in what they do. They are very terrorizing. They kill with the utmost prejudice, and even the ones that are survivors have swastikas cut into their heads. So all in all, really doing their job. Meanwhile, in Paris, Shoshana is actually operating a cinema under an assumed name. She meets Frederick Zoller, a German sniper who is essentially going to be the next German Audie Murphy. And he is hitting on her, and she wants absolutely nothing to do with him. But it turns out that his new movie, they want to have a premiere in France, and they choose their cinema. And Joseph Goebbels is the person in charge of making all this happen. And Landa is actually in charge of the security. He doesn't recognize her or does he? That's kind of the question of the movie. We'll get into
He
that.
knows her.
Yeah, exactly. But Londa lets Shoshana go, and so it goes forward. They're gonna put the premiere in the theater. So because of this, the British commanders, led by Lieutenant Archie Hickox, a hero movie critic. The every movie critic's favorite character in this movie is Archie Hickox, because it's like, yeah, I'm a film critic, then I get drafted, and therefore that makes me worthwhile. But
He's the one that fucked it all up.
I know. Three-stringed
It would have been fun. This motherfucker, you can't learn that.
Anyway, Archie Hickox
Goddamn.
is recruited because he speaks German, and he, along with the Bastards, goes to rendezvous with the double agent, which is Bridget von Hammersmark, a German film star, and they're going to sneak into the premiere and sabotage it as such. Unfortunately, a time in the tavern where they have to stop by ends up in disaster, and pretty much everybody dies with the exception of von Hammersmark. So as you said, Gorlami, Rivaderci, and all, they go in there disguised as Italians. Brad Pitt's so funny in this movie. Sorry. So they Rain and a couple other soldiers go in with von Hammersmark to enact the plan. Hitler in attendance as well. So they're trying to kill everybody and pretty much end the war in one night. Landa intercepts everybody, including von Hammersmark, which he strangles, and then he captures everybody. And you think, okay, well, they're going to stop it all. Landa, realizing that at the end of the war, he probably is going to stand in front of a Jewish tribunal, cuts a deal to let the plan go on. Everybody is destroyed. The German high command and pretty much every German general who matters is dead. Lots of the bastards are dead, and Landa gets to escape freely. Unfortunately for him, Aldo Rain lets him live, but he does kind of make his masterpiece of a swastika in his forehead to in the movie. Once indeed his masterpiece.
I was just doing that, and I poked myself in the eye.
You can imagine how painful an actual
Oh, good Lord.
head would. See, now, like in theory, like, okay, this is kind of one of the interesting plot points of it. It's like, okay, like that young kid, the Private Blitz. It's like they obviously they put it in his head.
Wilhelm.
Wilhelm.
Oh, wait.
Or the private that they let live after they gave up the information about the orchard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, he has the swastika in his head. But in theory, they pretty much just like, okay, this is sit you down, take care of this. With Landa, they're like digging in and like chipping away, and he's screaming, and man, that's
down to school, man.
Oh man. But a lot of, so we talked about it earlier, like a movie with this kind of, like, the opening part of the movie is a guy hunting Jews and kills most of them, and you're thinking, man, this shouldn't be this. It shouldn't set the tone for this much fun, but man, it's really fun. It's almost like a spaghetti Western.
Yeah, well, it really is. And I mean, the funnest thing about this movie, and we'll get more into it, but it's that revisionist history is
Absolutely.
Like, I wish this was the way it could have gone.
Yeah, it's like, wouldn't it be? And isn't it so cathartic having Hitler just shot to pieces, and
his head just being turned into Play-Doh, and absolutely all these Nazis, Joseph Goebbels and Hermann Goering, and
it's great, and not to mention
that's what everyone wants.
We'll go ahead and talk about the ending real quick. And not only is it what everybody wants, it's done in such a vicious, wonderful fashion with a woman screaming, "This is the face of Jewish vengeance" in the background as everybody's like, "Oh no, I'm burning to death or being shot," right before the place explodes. Like, it is such sweet catharsis. Like,
it is. This is basically like if any student of World War II that's on the right side.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll say that.
Yes.
Would want it to turn out this way, but
Sure,
it
sure.
obviously didn't.
Obviously
But
not. I mean, yeah, and you know that the key to the kind of fun of how everything is it
Mhm.
keeps the things that are serious or dark or any of those kind of things are kept like kind of on the side of like we don't get into the Holocaust. The Holocaust is avoided,
no,
even though it's it's obviously France in the 40s and all that darkness. It's like there are no offhand jokes about things like that are inappropriate. Like there are mostly, and not to mention pretty much every Nazi with the exception of Landa are buffoons. They're all idiots. So it makes like, well, of course they lost because they're jackasses and they're idiots. Like they deserve everything they get. And I'm not saying, oh, in real life they were really cold, calculating,
right.
genius men, but I mean, this is the way to how do you make it even better that Nazis are getting shot? You make them stupid.
Right.
Like
Yeah. Well, and I kind of think about like Indiana Jones. They made Nazis the bad guys.
Yeah, it's easy. Yep.
Because, that's easy because, and I'm not saying they're not good targets. They are.
Yeah.
But it's like, I mean, if you make them this or that or this or that, people would,
You can
But
you
it's
can
like,
twist an ideology in a certain way to can be like, no, they actually weren't that bad. Nobody's on the side of like, no, Nazis.
yeah, if it's like, no, they're Nazis, everyone's like,
yeah,
do what you gotta do.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a good point.
If anyone's like, actually, they weren't that bad, then it's
whoa. Yeah.
hang on, I am out.
We're having a different conversation.
No,
exactly.
no.
Exactly.
Goodbye.
The other interesting thing about this movie that I really like, especially on the rewatch. So I saw somebody that said the amount of English in this movie is about 30% of the dialogue. It is a lot of non-English. And even the opening scene, whenever Landa and the French farmer starts talking English, you're first watching it, you're like, why are they speaking English? And then it is plot specific to why they're speaking English. You're just like,
it is.
It's so good. And even the reasoning for it all is so perfect. Like,
yes, it really is. I do think it was partly meant for probably audience convenience.
Sure.
However,
once it comes full circle,
he did a great job of making it plot centric.
They're not just speaking English because they speak English. Yeah.
Right. So like, you remember The Hunt for Red October?
Yes.
At first they're actually speaking Russian and it's translated, and then they kind of like do a transition, and then they're just
you're just like,
English accents.
Yeah.
The whole rest of the way, like because the first time I saw this, I thought, oh, that's all they're doing.
Yeah.
Let's speak English. But when they pull it full circle, and like, well, we've been speaking English because I know they don't.
Yeah.
So let's switch back to French. And and you're like, woo. All right.
Tarantino does this better than anybody else I can think of, as far as especially the opening scene. The opening scene is about 20 minutes long, and boy, does it set the tone. That opening scene is something else. I know Christoph Waltz got all the accolades and the Oscar and everything like that. Dennis Menashe does not get enough credit. He is incredible in that scene. He is so good sitting there trying to stay stone faced and eventually starts crying. Man, it's so good. Such a great scene.
Dude, that's honestly, that's probably my favorite scene.
Absolutely. It sets the tone for the rest of the movie.
Because it's so I'm gonna geek out about this scene a little bit, almost like Jaws.
Yes, Indianapolis. Yes.
Yeah. It's like there's such attention to detail. He's a hardworking dude. He's a rough guy, you know, sweat and dirty clothes and everything, but well mannered, and they both, you know, they're speaking French,
very polite, and
yes, you know, and the milk,
man, all the milk stuff, it's so good because it's like, obviously it's a dairy farm. It's like, well, that makes so much more sense. Like, what, like,
yeah. And then like what's his name? Landa.
Yeah.
He goes to jot down notes and he pulls out a whole ink
yeah,
kit.
and I mean,
And then both of them smoke pipes, which is such a
and pack it in, and they have the little pipe packing thing in there. The everything. I agree, and even
and Landa pulls out like this French horn.
The humor of those scenes, the humor of that scene, like they'll poke it in like it's like, what have you heard? Rumors. Oh, I love rumors. Like, it's just like the humor of that, and him pulling out, like you said, that French horn of a pipe. Looks like a bassoon. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such like a German, like overbuilt thing.
He didn't even have to load it. It was already preloaded with tobacco and start smoking away. So the fun that this is what this movie does well. Like, usually whenever, especially a movie like this, which is 2.5 hours that fly by, a very swift 2.5 hours. But as opposed to like other movies where 2.5 hours would be scene after scene after scene after scene after scene, this is not that. It's long, sustained scenes, chapters, but not even that. Like even the chapters in and of itself, like, okay, the first chapter is the scene in the country house, them talking, and then the Bastards is Rain talking to them, and then Rain in the ditch talking to the Germans, and that's the whole chapter. It's like 2 or 3 scenes. It's not one scene then go to another place.
But then it always but it ends up pulling together in the final chapter.
Yeah, and
that's a good point.
It's especially that first scene, the amount of tension inherent in that, just between that one and then whenever Shoshana and Landa are talking at the restaurant, the tension in both those scenes, you're just like, ooh, man, just here we go. And the tension, and then the tension,
it's so tense, but so subtle.
Yeah.
And the actors in those scenes, they do such a great job of just wearing it.
Yes.
Without being like, "Ooh, I'm nervous." You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And then, like, it's if you watch the 3 French daughters at the beginning, how tense they obviously are. Obviously, Shoshana, as soon as Landa leaves, and she lets it out the cry, and obviously you can tell the body tension in the 3 bastards, the German bastards, and man, just so much about this. It's just long.
Yeah. And that first scene, I'll specifically say, like, attention to detail. Whenever the farmer's lighting his pipe, and he's talking at one point, and he's got dirty fingernails.
Yes, I noticed this too. His fingers are gross. Yeah, he's a cow farmer. Of course he is. Oh, he's.
What did my fingernails look like the other day, though?
That's true.
Like, whenever we met it, I mean, working people, it's stuff like that. Like, your fingernails get dirty and chipped, and you look gross, and your shirt's all messed up. Even
when he's lighting his pipe, like, I see the flame get close to his fingers. It's like he's done this 1,000 times. He doesn't even feel that. Whatever, like
they're so callous.
Yeah, I mean, and all this movie is just, it's filled with nothing but those scenes of, like, every scene just long, sustained, letting those scenes breathe a bit, and every little bit has, man, okay, let's go ahead and talk about this real quick. So the actors, no actor misses, and I talked about that cast. There are a dozen people I didn't mention who are great. Like, so I didn't mention these people. I went through the rundown of all these people. I didn't mention Omar Doom, the Omar, the bastard with the gun in his hand, who has to punch the guy to kill him.
The
at the
short.
end.
Oh, wait.
The short guy, along with the bear Jew who kill Hitler at the end.
Okay.
He's great.
Yeah.
Julie Dreyfus, the Goebbels French interpreter, she's great. The guy who plays Churchill, fantastic. All the other
Mike Myers is good.
Mike Myers is good for no. Why is Mike Myers in this movie?
He does fine though.
He does fine. Like,
I know it's a cameo.
Whenever you see,
he plays a good old British general.
And it's funny.
With a stick up his ass.
I'm not sure if you noticed this on the rewatch. So the August Deal. This is the German officer who essentially catches Hickox with the three fingers. He is in the scene. He's the one who picks up Shoshana from the theater and takes her to the restaurant with Landa, and he is exceptional. And obviously we don't talk about I haven't talked about Daniel Bruhl yet as Frederick Zoller. For a while there's like it's really funny. Like, is there a bad performance in this movie that you think of? Because I can't.
Nope. Nope.
The only one that
there's nothing I can.
Yeah.
I can hit.
The only thing I can say is it's exceedingly strange having Ryan from The Office in this movie. It's just strange.
Well,
he's not bad. He's great, but
it is. But like at this time, he wasn't known as that.
Well, it's funny, in The Office, there's an episode.
Not really, or maybe he's.
Well, The Office,
maybe that was right in there.
It was starting to become a little more prevalent. Like the show was starting to gain in popularity. In the show, the character Ryan said he breaks up with Mindy Kaling's character. And he says he's like, I got to go to Thailand for 5 months with my friends. And in reality, he was off the show to film Inglourious Basterds.
There you go.
Okay, so. Okay, let's put Christoph Waltz off to the side. Not counting Christoph Waltz. Who is the person in this movie you're like, they give the best performance? Because I mean, give me a couple that you can say off the top of your head. The first, there's a couple. One that comes to mind for me is Michael Fassbender as Hickox. With the Michael the movie Critic. This is one of his first prevalent movies. Michael Fassbender.
Which one's that?
Oh, he's this guy. He's
oh, that guy. Okay.
Yes.
The actor. The film critic. Okay.
Sorry, yes. I'm sorry.
I thought you were referring to yourself. I was like,
no. Oh no, I can only wish.
Okay.
Obviously, whenever you see Michael Fassbender and myself, we are easily mixed up. Fun thing about Michael Fassbender, actually born in Germany to German parents. So that is his real German accent. He didn't have to learn it. Like, so it's kind of funny, the fact that it's like, you don't sound like a German. Where's that from? Like, that's weird. I really love Fassbender. And then
he's very good.
And then it always sounds funny to say, man, that guy was a good Hitler, but the guy who played Hitler is pretty good. And then Melanie.
Well, that's what. Whenever I was rewatching it with my wife, I was like, "What if like your agent calls you up and is like, hey, this is going to be a big movie. It's got Brad Pitt in it.
Yeah,
like hell yeah. You're Hitler."
Yeah, same thing with the guy playing Goebbels. It's like he's like, hey, Tarantino wants you in this movie. Really? Who am I going to play? Goebbels.
Ooh,
cool. It's like, okay, but Goebbels is a goofball. Like, well, that's weird. Like, are you sure? Like, that doesn't sound like it's.
That is a good thing.
Yeah. You're like, oh, I'm going to be Goebbels.
Yeah.
But, Till Schweiger, who plays Sergeant Hugo Stiglitz.
I think he's one of the best because he's just such a badass motherfucker.
He's really great. Schweiger is German, really German. born in Germany and is a very big star in Germany. You see him in some other American stuff. He apparently was adamantly he never wants to play Nazis because he's German. Like it's and Tarantino and Brad Pitt got to him and were like, okay, you're gonna wear the.
It's kind of like for us, like, do you want to be play KKK?
It's like I'd really rather not, but yeah. Well, in this case, Tarantino and Brad Pitt were talking about it, and they said they convinced him. It's like, yeah, I don't want to wear the uniform. It's like, no. Every time you wear the uniform, you're going to be killing a Nazi. He's like, okay, then I guess we're wearing the uniform.
All right.
Yeah. Just top to bottom. Just God, this movie's great.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard, and I think it might have been from you, that everyone in this movie who plays an American is American. Everyone who plays an English person is from England. Every French person is French. Every German is German. Every Italian.
Yes, correct. Even Christoph Waltz, who plays an SS officer, says at the beginning, the Fuhrer brought me off the Alps, and he is Austrian. So everybody speaks their natural language plus something else generally. Like Melanie Laurent is French. She speaks French and English. Waltz is obviously the winner with this. He speaks German, English, French, and Italian. And then everybody else and even that scene, it's funny because that scene at the restaurant with Goebbels and Shoshana, it goes in between where Shoshana is speaking French. We see the subtitles, and then the French translator he speaks to German, and it's back and forth. So we understand everything that's happening, but it's being translated in between each time. It's really interesting.
Right. It is.
It's one. I think we might have. I don't know if we talked about it in the Last of the Mohicans episode. Last of the Mohicans scene.
Yes.
Where it's the only time they say like, "Hey, translate everything," and you see the subtitles, but you also hear what they're saying. Like, it's a really
when Duncan gives himself up to let.
Those little, like you said, though, that little attention to detail, like we're going to put everything in here, like. It's really crazy. Only a guy like Tarantino is like, okay, I'm going to make this World War II movie starring Brad Pitt. He's going to be killing Nazis. The most important role in this movie is this SS officer. He is being played by a German guy you have never heard of before.
Yeah, this is really his breakout. In terms of American audiences.
Oh, absolutely,
at least.
Absolutely. Nobody. I'm not sure he had been in. Obviously, he speaks English very well. But to my knowledge, I don't believe he had ever been in an English-speaking movie before this one. So and then from then on, he does nothing but English movies. Now you see him all the time. But let's get into Waltz. This movie doesn't work if Waltz is not Londa, and he's such a fascinating, complex, interesting character, and Waltz does such a perfect job of grabbing every single facet of what makes him interesting.
I don't understand it, like how he can just say something or just write something down or do something, and it's like, this guy is interesting.
Yes.
And I'm like you're pulled in by him. And enthralling. And like, you feel like, okay, I'm with this guy. Great interrogator.
Oh man.
That's
what you talk about.
Killing them with kindness.
Yes.
That's how interrogation goes. Yeah. If you can win them over and be charismatic, then they're like, well.
And not only that, like, I talk about a guy like, so I keep talking about the Germans being buffoons, and he's the only one who's really not a buffoon. And the reason he's not a buffoon is because he's very aware of the reality of every situation. Like at the end, whenever he's like, he
knows we're losing this shit.
Yeah. this is not a propaganda thing where it's like, man, any day these Americans are going to, he's like, no. This is after Normandy. He knows the writings on the wall. He's like,
yeah,
what I'm going to do is make the best situation for myself.
Yeah. Time for the rats to jump ship.
Yep.
When it's going down. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's going to find his best way to do it. Yeah.
Tarantino apparently originally wrote this role for Leonardo DiCaprio and realized that is an unrealistic situation to put DiCaprio in, to be a German guy speaking German and doing all this kind of stuff. So he decided to get an authentic German, and they auditioned, I think they said they auditioned like 400 people, and he thought he wrote an unplayable role. They couldn't find anybody to play it. And then Waltz came in, they went, oh, perfect. And yeah, he makes the move. And you know, it's funny, he's not gone very long. Like he's in the movie a lot, but he keeps popping in on each situation. Like he's in the tavern, and every time he does something, he's smarter than essentially everybody else.
Yep.
And he just assumes
he's playing 3D chess.
Absolutely. And
everyone else is playing checkers usually. Till the end.
What's the old saying about the American military? The reason about the American military can't be beaten because they train in chaos, and war is chaos. Essentially, like Rain at the end of the movie, he's like, oh, I'm anticipating every single thing. And he's like, oh, I didn't think he was going to shoot him and then scar me. And like you said, he's kind of in a German, and it kind of calls back to the first scene where he says, you know, Germans come in here, they think how a German would shoot, a German would hide, and they hide in the floor.
Oh, no, like how a hawk, a predator.
Yes, and he is going the same way at the end. He's like, well, if I was in this situation, and he's like, you killed him. He's like, you'll be shot for this. And he's like, and Rain goes like, nah, it's not really how the American military works. Like, I'll be yelled at.
He's like no, it's called an ass chewing. I've taken an ass chewing.
I've been chewed out before. Yeah. And
it's more like a chewing out.
Yeah.
I've taken a chew out. Something like that.
It's one of those things where it's kind of like a situation where like a serial killer kills a kid and the parent kills the serial killer, and they kind of let him away with it. Kind of the same situation. Like nobody's going to be like, Aldo Rain, you got to go to jail for what you've done. It's like, he's a Nazi.
Yeah.
But
no. Yeah. No, it's definitely a cathartic ending.
Oh, so good. And the first time you saw it, the first time you ever, I'd like to, a movie like this, I've seen a bunch. So I kind of like to think of the first time watching it and remembering how I felt when I first saw it. And I remember whenever Brad Pitt gets taken and Londa is talking to him, and I'm just like, what is actually happening? Why is this the case? Why would it do it? And then he just lays it all out there, and you're like, oh man, it's so good. So much better than I could ever thought it would be. It's like, not only does it work for everybody wins in this situation, but at the same time, the Bastards and Shoshana have never met. And it all just kind of happens to work.
No, it's just, yeah, exactly. That's what I thought about this last rewatch was these were just two plans coinciding, convalescing in one night, one fateful night, you know?
Like Rain gets back and they're like, man, you really blew up the theater. I'm like, sure. Why'd it catch on fire? I don't know. Like, sure.
I guess we pulled it off.
It's like, sure. I guess, I totally did all that kind of stuff that I meant to do. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you a big, you like Tarantino?
Man, I either love it or hate it.
Really?
There's very few Tarantino films that for me are like middle of the road.
Sure.
Like they're okay. It's either like I hated that one or I loved it.
Okay. So there are only like one or two that I'm like, that was fine. Everything else I'm like, this is pretty friggin' incredible. I'm very much like, it's kind of a cliche at this point to be like, oh, Pulp Fiction's great, but Pulp Fiction is great. Like
It is.
same thing with Reservoir
That's
Dogs.
one I love.
Reservoir Dogs. Yep. Hateful Eight.
Hated it.
Hated the Hateful Eight. Okay, yeah, I thought it was
Despised it.
I didn't despise it. I thought it was fine. Like it was not the Tarant. I went into it with too high of expectations. I'm like, what was that? Like, I didn't get what it was.
All he did was like, oh look, I can make dirty, bloody, violent, gross shit. It was shock porn.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I felt like the entire movie was just gratuitous violence that didn't really. There wasn't even a fucking plot, really.
That's a really good point. Like I think of like, I always compare Saving Private Ryan and Hacksaw Ridge. Like the opening 20 minutes of Saving Private Ryan are visceral, disgusting, violent, but you're like, it feels like you're really there. Hacksaw Ridge is much, much, much more violent, but it feels stylized in a gross way.
Right.
Like,
right.
Like, oh, it's like, this is, you're just trying to be gross for the sake of being gross. Like, oh, it's really violent. I'm like, this is not war. Like,
exactly. Like you can watch that opening scene of Saving Private Ryan, which is, I mean, just incredible.
Yes.
But you can watch that and go, wow, that is a really realistic depiction of what that must have been like.
Yes.
And then you can see other movies and you're like, okay, they're pretending like they get shot. It's just like
there's a scene in Hacksaw Ridge in the middle of a violent battle where a guy picks up a dead torso to use as a shield. And I'm just like stop this. Like, I don't care if it's an anecdotal story. Like, it's not gross. Just you're being visceral just to do that. And I understand what you mean.
Yes.
The Hateful Eight is a great example of Tarantino just being gross because he wants to be gross.
Yeah, it's kind of like when Samuel L. Jackson took that one dude out and made him get naked out in the freezing cold and made him.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, well,
it was like, what was that for? Like,
that's a good point. Like, okay, Inglourious Basterds.
You got your knob popped off.
Inglourious Basterds has some pretty violent stuff, but everything that happens, you're just like, okay,
all right,
bash a Nazi's head in with a baseball bat. I'm fine with that. Scalp a dude, sure, no problem with any of these things. Gunshots.
They're all cathartic.
It's all very cathartic. Like it all makes sense. It's excess with purpose, and that didn't seem like it had purpose. That's a good point.
Exactly.
I really like that.
It goes with the plot. It goes with the storyline. In this movie, it's stepping stones along the path, whereas like the Hateful Eight, he was just throwing rocks at shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm gonna have Channing Tatum show up for 2 seconds to get shot in the face grossly, and that's no reason. Yeah, exactly. Inglourious Basterds is my favorite Tarantino movie. Jackie Brown. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
I haven't. I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
Jackie Brown is great. It's very much like a crime caper and Tarantino ways. And there's a lot of interesting, good performances in it. Great movie if you ever get the chance to see Jackie Brown. But it's our first Tarantino movie. I'm surprised. Like, he doesn't make much. He's only made 10 movies. So it's not like it's not like there's a lot of Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Jackie Brown, Kill Bill 1, Kill Bill 2. He made the movie Death Proof, which is part of half of the movie Grindhouse, which is it's not bad, but I think I like that a little better than Hateful Eight, but not much. Inglourious Basterds, Django Unchained,
excellent.
I liked it too, and that's another one where, hey, let's be really violent. How are we gonna make violence okay? Let's kill super racist.
But it works.
It works. Catharsis. It's like nobody's gonna be bad about all these people cursing about killing all these racist slave owners. So I'm cool with it. Like, yeah, it works.
And there I will just say, personal anecdote, whenever I worked at the police department, there was a dog there named Django.
Really?
So
it's very appropriate. Then after Django made The Hateful Eight, and then Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that's all he's made. He's got another one coming up. Apparently,
I've still got to watch that. I still haven't seen that.
We're trying to set a record for saying Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in every single podcast since I first mentioned it. We'll get there eventually.
One of these days.
He said he's going to make one more movie, and he said it's one of those, like, this will be my last movie before I retire. It's like, yeah, it's famous last words. Like, he'll get the itch again, I hope, and probably.
Okay, Tom Brady.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. All right, we are back, and every week I go through the filmography of a filmmaker and put Jake's cinematic knowledge to the test. It is time for Pull for a Dumbass. Today we're talking about Aldo Rain himself, a man who is actually from Oklahoma. So I guess Aldo the Apache is not too far off. It's not bad, but we're talking about Brad Pitt himself. Hey man, he's hilarious in this movie. Like, he realizes he realizes exactly what kind of movie this is. He's very self-aware of it. Jake, do you feel like sniffing snuff pills when from watching this movie? he's knocking those things back left and right.
Man, I've taken tobacco in about every form that comes, but that's one I wouldn't. That's
not one you mess with.
No, I don't even like nasal spray.
Well, Brad Pitt, long and illustrious career, Oscar winner. We will get into all of it. He made 4 uncredited appearances in 1987. When you look like Brad Pitt and you're in your 20s, it's always shocked, like, how a guy like Brad Pitt was unsuccessful as an actor for a while. Blows me away, but whatever. Made a couple small movies. His breakthrough movie was in 1991 as had to stretch himself as a handsome, charismatic guy who takes his shirt off a lot in Thelma and Louise. Yeah. Really great. Like, I think Thelma and Louise kind of set the tone for everybody. Kind of Brad Pitt experience. They're like, oh, he's handsome, and they kind of leave it there. But if you go watch that movie, he's really good in that movie. He's a charismatic shit, and it works for everything. But really great in Thelma and Louise. One of my our aunts and mom's favorites, obviously. So Thelma and Louise kind of sends him on his way.
Hold my hand. Hold my hand.
Do it.
There
we go.
No, the other way.
Come, no.
I'm married.
Oh no.
Do this.
No, I'm backwards. This is so stupid.
We fucked it up.
I was wondering why we weren't doing this right.
All right.
Moving on. They didn't die. They just went over the cliff and froze. So after Thelma and Louise, everybody's like, this guy's way too handsome. We got to put him in stuff. Does a couple things. Nothing really works until 1992 when Robert Redford cast him in A River Runs Through It.
Oh, that's a banger. I like it. It's long and drawn out. I know.
It's a fishing movie. It's so
I don't know. To me, that's a romance movie, like a romantic movie. Now, obviously, there's like human romance involved in it, but I don't know, just the beauty of it.
It's a man like it won an Oscar for best cinematography, and I've always made the argument that, well, is the cinematography really great, or is that just what Wyoming and Montana looks like? Like it looks so beautiful up there. I get it. I get why it made it. So River Runs Through It kind of takes him up a level, even though the movie wasn't all that successful. I wasn't going to mention it. So Quentin Tarantino wrote the movie True Romance, and he was Floyd in True Romance, a stoner. It's just a guy sitting on a couch, smoking weed, rolling through life. Exceptional if you ever see True Romance. Like, why is Brad Pitt as a stoner? It's really great. But 1994 steps it up in a big way. Two movies from 1994, playing Louis de Pont du Lac in, I guess, I've never seen it. Interview with the Vampire. I don't think I've ever seen, like, I'm sure it was on TV a lot. I'm sure I've seen bits and pieces, but I can't say I've seen the whole movie.
Yeah, I don't know.
But that movie was the movie where, like, okay, Brad Pitt's a movie star now, and he's successful at it. Same year.
By the way, you're great at French.
Right? It just rolls off the tongue.
Yeah.
Much more successful later in 1994. Probably the swooniest Brad Pitt has ever been. Just like patently, like, man, that guy is handsome. Legend of the Fall.
Yeah.
I like Legend of the Fall. Little melodramatic, little long, little silly, but
little bit.
But good movie. Good movie.
Yeah.
Next year,
it's one you kind of think, am I gay? Is
he is extremely good looking in that movie. You're right. He's Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt is one of those. He's just the traditional, like, well, he's the best looking man I can think of. He's like, that's the one that pops into your head.
Like, if I had to go, if I had to cross the line, I mean,
there are worse options.
There's worse options.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a good way to put it. The
At
next
least I'm not in a parking lot of a La Quinta again. Oh shit. What?
1995 really steps his game up in an interesting way. We obviously Seven. We want to include that obviously since we did our episode on Seven, but that same year gets his first Oscar nomination. A really interesting character in a really interesting movie, 12 Monkeys.
No.
12 Monkeys is
I've heard about it, but I haven't seen it.
It's probably a top 3 Bruce Willis performance. He's very good in it. Brad Pitt is twitchy, goofy. Like, it's a really interesting movie. It has to do with time travel in the future, and it gets a little confusing, but you just kind of like got to kind of feel the vibes of it and sink into it. You're like, it's a cool movie. It just does a lot of interesting things. So 12 Monkeys happens. We talked about Sleepers the other day in 1996. Yeah. I won't include that one. He makes a lot of shit in the late 90s. He goes back to back with The Devil's Own, where he's Irish alongside Harrison Ford. He played he's 7 Years in Tibet, where he's German, but he's in Tibet. And then Meet Joe Black, a real snoozer of a movie. Follows it up much more like, okay, so at this point, everybody in the world thinks he's a really handsome idiot. And he turns it around and he weaponizes that handsome idiot as Tyler Durden in Fight Club.
Yeah. I like Fight Club.
I love Fight Club too. And I think me and you are on the same page about why we like Fight Club, because it's a satire and not because like it's like it's not. There are two kinds of people who like Fight Club. People who like it for the right reasons and people like it for the real wrong reasons. Like, and I'd like to think we're on the right side of this.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of a fantastical little fever dream.
Yeah, I agree.
Thing,
Fight Club's great, but
The
next year, coming right off of Fight Club, feels like apparently doing boxing again, but does it with a ridiculous gypsy accent in Snatch.
Yeah.
Snatch is cool. I like Snatch.
I watched it in college. Yeah.
Good. Brad Pitt's having a lot of fun with it. So speaking of a lot of fun, reuniting with his director from A River Runs Through It, Robert Redford. Spy Game?
Yeah. Yeah.
Spy Game's fun.
College.
Yeah, it's time and place type movie.
I can remember my apartment. Like I remember watching like as soon as they came out.
Yes.
On VHS.
You're right. That is it. That like Hearts War, Spy Game. Those are Jake's apartment movies. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's time and place. You always kind of put yourself in those situations. I love Spy Game, but good movie. Okay,
Yeah.
so everybody always talks about what is Brad Pitt's best performance. You can kind of go all over the place with your various opinions. I heard somebody make a really interesting argument that his best performance was in 2011 in Ocean's 11. He is, and the argument essentially they made, I know you've seen Ocean's 11. The argument essentially they made is that he takes everything about his star persona and essentially makes himself a background character, but still looks like Brad Pitt somehow. Like, he
eats the entire time. He eats the entire time.
It's great. He wears really silly clothes. Like everybody looks so fancy. Everybody in the movie so pretty, but still, like,
I watched that in Athens, Greece.
Really? Another time and place. Yep. Yeah, it's a really interesting one. Good. That's fun. So after Ocean's 11 and Spy Game and Snatch, he's kind of like, okay, I'm back on top. I'm going to try to do the kind of things that everybody thinks I'm going to do. And he fails. How about 2004's Troy?
Ooh.
Me
and my buddy from college, we were both kind of history buffs, and we're like, that'd be cool. And man,
what just an abject failure of a film. Just
I mean, we walked out of there just. This is before they even gave you beer at the
with Diane Kruger in it. Diane Kruger as Bridget von Hammersmark as Helen of Troy. Just top to bottom, everything about it is not like there are like a couple battle scenes you're like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like the fight between Hector and Achilles is kind of cool, and I like Eric Bana, but overall, like what a shit movie. Now on the flip side of that, does Ocean's 12 in 2004, the next year, the film that rocked 1,000 marriages, Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Yeah.
It's
I've seen it, but
it's on TV a lot, and when it's on TV, I watch it. It's good. Like,
it's kind of fun, but
yeah. Like if it didn't,
I don't know.
If it didn't have the resulting marriage implications for Brad Pitt, Jennifer Aniston, and Angelina Jolie, it probably would be much less memorable. But like you see that and you're like, okay, I get that. 2006 starts in 2006 he starts producing. He starts a production company, and that year everything he makes is pretty interesting. One of the first movies he ever did at this production company was The Departed, because he was supposed to star in it. He becomes the product, so he does all sorts like that. Does Ocean's 13 2007. We talked about the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. He plays Jesse James, is very good in that. A lot of people think that might be his best performance. 2008 does a couple movies. Have you seen Burn After Reading? It's a Coen Brothers ensemble. George Clooney, Frances McDormand, John Malkovich, Tilda Swinton, Brad Pitt is in it. Brad Pitt is purely comedic in this movie, and he is hilarious. Like, he is top to bottom funny from the whole movie. He plays like a gym trainer. Boy, you can just find some clips.
Oh, is that? Yeah, where he's like dancing around like in Richard Simmons stuff.
Yes. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, everybody sees the clip, but they haven't seen the actual movie.
I think I'm in that camp. Yeah,
I like it. I think it's a fun movie. A lot of fun. It's outside of Brad Pitt having a blast. It's not really. It's fine. I'm not surprised you haven't seen it. Same year though, gets his second Oscar nomination as the man going backwards in time. The Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
I've never seen it.
No, that's surprising. That seems like something that would catch. It's fine. Like, whenever we've done a couple David Fincher movies. We've done Seven. We've done Gone Girl. Just talking about Fight Club. and he did Benjamin Button, and it just doesn't fit with the other stuff that he does. Like it seems an odd choice. It's pretty saccharine. Like grandparents would like it. It's fun. But
well, I mean, I know of it. I
Yeah.
know the premise of it and all that, but no, I've never seen it. But I have seen Children Born that I thought maybe this is
we're 90 years old and maybe we're going backwards.
yeah. You gave birth to 100-year-old. That's ugly, man.
So after so gets his second Oscar nomination in 2008, does a little bitty little things here and there, but mostly just produces. 2011, maybe his pinnacle. He's in Moneyball.
Oh God, I love Moneyball.
He's so good in Moneyball. He is so good. Man,
I get such like just a baseball boner for that.
We talked about it when we talked about Field of Dreams, and it's very much like, oh man, like okay,
it's just
so on the day we're recording this is opening day is in 6 days.
Yes.
So I mean, we are very like, yeah, let's go watch Moneyball and watch baseball. Exactly.
Fuck yeah.
Moneyball, top to bottom, exceptional. We're gonna have to do Moneyball one a day, but
we will.
Yeah. Man, great movie.
Yeah.
So
we'll have to do a baseball month.
We will have to do a baseball month. That's a good one. So makes a couple other movies. A movie called Killing Them Softly I really like that nobody's seen. It's a weird movie, but I love it. How about 2013? I think it might have been his biggest financial success. A movie I don't like, World War Z.
World War Z, you don't like it?
I don't. I think it kind of sucks. Like, it's like
it's kind of stupid, but
he's really sleepwalking.
I don't know.
Like it has a lot of potential. That movie did make a ton of money though. This is the peak of the peak of the zombie boom, where they're like, oh, anything zombie is going to be successful. But there are some things I like about it. Obviously, fast.
I don't know. I kind of like it.
I like fast. I like fast zombies. Fast zombies it's a game changer when it comes to zombies. Yeah. Exactly. But
interesting little fact.
Yeah.
I read something or heard something the other day that said like zombie movies, apocalypse movies, natural disaster movies gain in popularity like during economic downturns.
It's
and like during COVID,
it's
and
like
stuff like that.
I'm fascinated with that because they talked about, I remember right whenever COVID started, they said the two most popular movies were Contagion and Outbreak. And I'm like, that's the last thing I want to watch. Why do I I don't want to watch Outbreak. Outbreak scared me when I was a kid. Like,
yeah. Yes, everyone's like, I need something to relate to.
Exactly. Contagion. You seen Contagion?
Yeah.
Contagion is not a movie I want to watch during pandemic worries. No, absolutely not. Oh, geez. Anyway,
sorry.
No problem. Makes World War Z in 2013. Gets his first Oscar in 2013 as a producer. The producer of the Best Picture winning 12 Years a Slave.
Ooh, that's a good one.
He's really good in that movie too. A tough one. It's a movie I don't want to watch again. I don't want to watch it more than I have to. Like, it's a very rough go.
It is.
I didn't have this originally on here, but this seems like a movie that is definitely up your alley. 2014, Fury.
Man,
I
love Fury.
I fucking hate Fury.
Why?
I fucking hate it. I thought it sucked. God. God, I hate Fury. I'm sorry, buddy. Like, the show.
We got to do it now.
I don't want to. We got to get into David Ayer and fine. Don't get me wrong. I like almost everybody involved with the making of that movie. Bernthal, Michael Pena, Brad, obviously Pitt doing great stuff. Why Scott Eastwood's in that, I don't know. Shia LaBeouf somehow doing things. I mean,
He pulled out his tooth for it, man.
I can't stand that shit. But I can't.
All right. That might be a lively debate.
Oh man, you're gonna
We might have to stick that in the back pocket.
See the thing about
Okay,
Fury,
you make me watch The Lobster.
You're gonna make me watch. So this will be interesting because I'll have to go in and watch Fury again and be like,
Yeah.
Okay, come on, let's open mind.
Exactly.
Let's see what's going on here. And at the end, I might still come away going, yeah, this thing's still a piece of shit. But I mean, we'll see.
Okay.
Okay, that's it.
I'm gonna make you sit in it.
Okay. And I will let you wax eloquent about why you love it. That's fine. I fucking hate Fury. God, I hate Fury. I'm sorry, but okay. It's so upset. I'm sorry. Does for our audio listeners, he's pointing at me and be upset.
I don't want to be this guy's brother no more.
Yes.
He said he don't like Fury. He said he hates Fury.
Hate Fury, yes.
No, she's gone too. That's it.
He does Fury in 2014. Does a lot of does a couple small movies. No, you're fine. Does a couple small movies in between. Producer on The Big Short was in The Big Short. I wasn't going to include that one. Really doesn't do a whole lot besides producing and then popping in stuff, and then does Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in 2019. Finally wins his acting Oscar. I'm not going to include it on here, but have you seen the movie Ad Astra?
No.
He is a astronaut in the near future. It's an extremely interesting movie that it wouldn't surprise me if you hated. It's slow and meditative, but has some interesting things to say about humanity and being a father and stuff like that. It's a really interesting movie. I really liked it, but I understand people that don't. So his most recent movie just came out this last year. A lot of fun. You see Bullet Train?
Bullet Train. Yes.
Yes. Do you like Bullet Train?
Eh.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. It was fun. Like he's
whatever.
He's having fun. Right. He's having fun.
That's
so
something.
I mean, yeah. So I'm sorry. This entire I've ruined the whole thing just because I said I don't like Fury. Oh,
dude, that's we're gonna have like maybe a special episode.
I mean,
I am gonna so vehemently disagree with you.
I know.
That'll be a special episode.
It
will be profanity laced.
Yeah. Well, I'll make sure to add that one explicit. That being said, Jake, you did pretty well on the Brad Pitt. Out of 17, you only missed Interview with the Vampire, 12 Monkeys, Burn After Reading, and Benjamin Button. So 13 out of 17. You're pretty well versed on the Brad Pitt filmography. So well done. Jake, it is about that time. Please don't pepper me just with Fury questions, but it is about that time.
All right. Would you like a glass of milk?
Yes. To your cows and to your family, I say bravo.
Yeah. All right. Step in the hot box.
Each episode, instead of me starting the conversation, Jake peppers me with a series of questions that I must answer truthfully. Sometimes it's just trivia, sometimes it's not. What you got for me?
All right. How many languages are in this movie?
Okay, so German, French, English, Italian. I mean, Christoph Waltz actually admitted that he actually wasn't speaking Italian. He was just kind of gibberishing. Okay, so I'm trying to think what else would be in there, unless there was like, I don't know. I guess just 4. Or is there something I'm missing?
No, that's all I counted was English, French, German, Italian.
And I mean Italian, sure.
Italian.
Arrivederci.
Yeah. Grazie.
Gorlami. Yeah.
Yeah. I like how the I love how that
That's a
little
great-
guy was
that's-
like
that's-
Dominico or something. What is his name? Dominico.
That's a great. That is. It's Dominique de Coco. Dominique de Coco.
No Coco.
It's a great gift too. If you ever have a chance to use it, you can just go. Just wonderful. Yes, Dominique de Coco.
All right. So I thought this job, as a history guy specifically, I'm very interested in World War II history.
Mhm.
I can say something that I think this film really nails is like costume design.
Oh, I'll bet.
I mean, especially, the Nazi uniforms and the American uniform. I mean, it's mostly Nazi uniforms, really, as far as military uniforms go. But and the SS is heavily portrayed in this film.
Very much so.
Do you know who actually designed the Nazi uniforms and specifically SS uniforms?
Is it? It's Adidas. Adi Dassler? No. One of the Adidas brothers, or Puma. Was it Puma? Well, sorry. I think that's shoes. The Dassler brothers, Adidas. One was a Nazi, one was not a Nazi. But was it Hugo Boss?
Hugo Boss.
Okay, yeah. That's why they look so chic. Like, I mean,
he fixed them up pretty sharp.
Yeah,
I mean, the genocide is like
not ideal.
Yeah.
By the way, a couple things about that I remembered. So Eli Roth, who plays Eli Roth, is a director, by the way. He doesn't really act in much. He said, they asked him, how did you get into like the mentality of wanting to bash somebody's head in? He's like, well, you put me in wool underwear and uniforms. It makes you really pissed off.
Yeah.
This movie was not nominated for best costume design. I didn't think about that until just now. The reason is because they
really nail it. I think
the Oscars have a boner for fancy British stuffiness.
Mhm.
So like movies like The Young Victoria, Bright Star, Coco Before Chanel, and Nine, The Imaginarium of Dr. Farnessus, like it's all like fanciful like ball gowns and stuff like that. The Oscars always go for that shit. So it's it's a shame.
And I can also see like the kind of PR club going.
So yeah, we
we can't vote for Nazi uniforms.
yeah.
It's well done, but
hey, good job, but no. Yeah, it's a good point.
Good job, but thanks.
Good point.
Yeah. All right. So, in this movie, Shoshana is the owner operator of a movie theater there in France. She is a projectionist and has an assistant, also a projectionist. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you were a projectionist for several years.
I was. It's and that's the difference between essentially modern movie theaters is whenever I did it, I had to, and if anybody has ever strung a movie, a film into a projectionist, you understand why I'm doing this, because you have to hold film between your fingers to string it in, and it's muscle memory. So when I say that, I just muscle memory do this 2 fingers. But yeah, I did it for a number of years. It's a really cool process, and a real pain in the ass. Like,
it seems like it.
So I'll use Inglourious Basterds as an example. So it's 2.5 hours. A reel of film. What you kind of think of a reel, it's about 20 minutes. So you would
and they're heavy fuckers, ain't they?
They're not light, and especially when you put them all together. So you're talking 8 reels, probably 7-8 reels for Inglourious Basterds. And if I were to hold it, I could only hold half of it. Essentially, you have to. When it's spun out, it's probably this wide, all in a big spindle.
And you're just holding a movie.
Well, what you're doing is you're actually you have the bottoms in your like arm on the pits of your elbows, and you're holding it, and you're hoping to God it doesn't fall, because if it falls, it's essentially like, well,
it's a little pricey.
Not pricey. You're just like, well, I'm going to quit my job. Like it's too much effort.
Like just take off your polo and just walk out to the truck.
Pretty much.
Like,
it's a mess of a disaster, but yeah, I did that for a lot of years, and that was a lot of fun. And that was my first job, was in a movie theater. It's very apropos since I'm a critic now. So, I mean, yeah, I loved it. A lot of fun memories doing that kind of stuff, and stringing in movies and putting all that stuff together.
Okay. That being said, could you burn down a movie theater with film?
So not.
Do you know anything about?
Not modern film. They do have the little vignette in that about the like, oh, you can't take that on, they're flammable, and it's like the old film, especially.
Was that the 35 millimeter?
Yeah, the 35 millimeter, and the way it was made, like the something in it. Whenever I work there, it was, it's looks like cheap plastic almost. Like it looks like it looks like tape almost.
Like those things, like whenever you're a kid, like those slideshow things.
That's a great example. That's a great example of what it's like. Like the filter, like it doesn't rub off on your finger. It's kind of like, okay, well, it's just what it is. Like, it's I couldn't speak to the flammability of film these, or at least whenever I did it, I tried my absolute best not to. Now, actually, I can speak to the flammability actually, because movie projection, the most expensive thing about movie projectors are the lamps, the bulbs. Bulbs are very large, they're very expensive, and whenever they're very hot, obviously, and whenever the projector is going through, that like horror movie cliche of like seeing the film burn,
like the holes,
it's stuck on the lamp, and the lamp is hot enough, it's burning it. It's actually designed to burn and break as opposed to ignite. So I'm sure an old-timey theater, you could probably, like they said, it's very flammable. It seems very doable.
Yeah. Well. All right. Okay. So, I'm a knife guy.
Yep. Oh yeah, this is a great knife movie.
I'm a blade guy.
Yeah.
I'm also a fan of Native American history.
Oh yeah.
And there's some scalping in here.
Oh yes, there is. It's the second movie.
All right.
It's the second movie where Brad Pitt scalps people during a world war, because he does it in Legends of the Fall too.
I love it.
Anyway.
Okay, so he's Aldo the Apache, right? All right. He's got his big old knife. What is the style of that knife called?
Is it a Bowie knife?
Yeah.
Okay. What a coincidence.
All right. You're still my brother. I'll forgive you for the Fury thing. All right. You got that one.
It's funny, a Bowie knife in the middle of all that, obviously, kind of, the Apache, but you have a Bowie knife, but whatever. Yeah. Good knife.
Big old Texas toothpick, man.
That's what when I think of knives in this movie, I think of Hugo Stiglitz sharpening it on that piece of leather, just shing shing. You're just like, whew, that guy's a bad guy.
I love it. I love it. All right, man. Well, you know what? I'll negotiate a surrender here. So you're free to go.
One more piece of trivia I want to give you, just because it's a real dorky, it's a real movie dork thing. So at the premiere, they're going around, and all the SS higher ups are going through the lobby, and Zoller, Friedrich Zoller, introduces Shoshana to Emil Jannings, the best actor in the world, Emil Jannings. Emil Jannings was a German actor, a real guy.
Mhm.
He won the first Academy Award for Best Actor in a Motion Picture back in 1928. I see the movie. He's very good. He was a silent film actor, but he's German. And then he went back to Germany, made a bunch of propaganda films, and then he went back to Hollywood, and they're like, why don't you guys like me anymore? So, but just a little bit of trivia for you. So that was a fun little part of the movie where they're like, hey, Emil Jannings is here. That's fun. So,
well, it's like there's a great Family Guy episode where they're like on a tour bus in Berlin.
Yeah.
And they're like, up until 1938, this is beautiful. And then 1946, and everyone is like, what happened there? Nothing much.
Nothing much. It's like, you invaded Poland. Oh, no, we invited them over for.
Hey. Yeah.
That's a great little clip of all that. I agree. I might try to fling that in on the episode. That's good.
Heck yeah.
Before we go, what is your film rating of Inglourious Basterds?
Great. Awesome.
I agree.
Love it.
Great. Awesome. I love it as well. I didn't check my ratings, but one of the top 5 of that movie year. It's my favorite Tarantino movie.
Yep. Mine too.
And just a great movie all around. Anything else you want to add before we go?
I don't think so.
Well, say arrivederci. That does it.
Arrivederci.
That does it for this episode of the Film Critic and the Common Man. Thanks so very much for joining us. You can follow me on Twitter at NebHasBeen, on Letterboxd at Neb810, on Instagram at Miller Movies. Check out my website, icecreamforfreaks.com, and you can follow my other writing on the Film Experience and Cinema Scholars. You can find me guest hosting on way too many other podcasts these days. I'm the David Thewlis of podcasting, after all. Jake, where can the people find you? I imagine you are somewhere in a bird's nest, picking away at 250 shoulders over the series of 3 days.
No, I made a deal with someone, and so I've got a place in Nantucket. Have you ever heard about the man from Nantucket who had
no, it's time to go. Go.
Okay, sorry.
Make sure to follow the podcast on Twitter at Critic Comment Pod. Please like, subscribe, rate, and review. Enjoy the show wherever you get your podcast. We will catch you guys next time. Thank you so very much for joining us.
What's the trick? What's the trick? In making my love stick. What's the trick?